Alright, so in order to start coding, we need to install first some packages. As I said, the important one is that we need to use the HTTP package to make requests. So for that, actually, if we go back to the website that I told you about, and for sure, as I said before, I will share with you this link and the description, and I will share with you the link that covers the Firebase server also, and I will share with you the diagrams links. So as you can see in here, they used 4 packages. Actually, we need to use these 3 packages. The first one is the Stripe payment. The second one, the HTTP package to send requests. The third one will be the progress dialog to show like something like a spinner. We can copy them from here, but I prefer to use the latest packages, so I will go to the pub.dev. And actually, if you use this HTTP package version, it will conflict with the Firebase storage and it will not be succeeded. So I recommend you to use the same versions of the package that I will use that in this tutorial. So in here, let's search for HTTP. Go to installing as usual, copy this, go to pubspec.yaml file and paste it in here, fix the indentation like this. Now we need the Stripe. So let's search for Stripe. We need actually the Stripe payment, this one, so the third one. As you can see in this website, they use the Stripe payment. So go to installing as usual, copy this, or you can actually copy this and add it in the terminal like this. And the last one will be the progress dialog. I will just copy it from here, it's fine. Paste it in here and then save your file. Actually, I got an error in here which says that the Stripe payment is already in the dependencies. Actually, I installed it before, so it is fine. Alright, so once you save this file, the packages will be installed as usual, and we can start coding. So to start coding, actually, let's add a new file to manage the payment in it. So in the services, I will add a new file. I will name it payment.dart. And in here, we need to import the packages that we just installed. Alright, I will just initialize a class and I will import it later. So in here, I will initialize a class, name it Stripe transaction response. As I said, because we have a response, so we need to get the message and if it is succeeded or not. So in here, let's say transaction response. The first one will be message. The second one will be a boolean to see if it is succeeded or not, as I said. We need to create a constructor for it. Paste it in here. Let's make it a named constructor like this and initialize it. So this.message and this.success like this. Now let's initialize another class that handle the payment or that have the payment methods that we will use it later in order to make it. So I will name it Stripe service like this. And we need to initialize few arguments in here or a few variables. So let's make it static so we can use it later in all classes. So in here, let's say string. The first one will be the API that we need to send our data to it. I will name it API base. It will be equal to https://api.stripe.com/v1. If we come to the logs in here, As you can see, it is post, then v1, then payment intent. So we need to add something to this API base. So below it, let's say static payment API URL, and we need later on to use this API URL in order to send our payment to it. So in here, we need to use the API base. We can call it like this, or we can call it just by typing the API, but I will just keep it like this. So we need to add slash and add payment intents to it. So copy this, paste it in here, just like this. Now I got an error in here because I didn't initialize it. So it is a string actually. Alright, so now we need to get two keys. Let's go to the API keys, which is you can find it in here and the developer section. So in this tab, you will have two keys. The first one is a publishable key and the second one is a secret key. We need to initialize each one. So I will reveal the secret key, enter your password, and you can copy it by pressing on it. So in here, let's initialize another static string. I will name it secret and paste it in here, just like this. And now we need to initialize something called headers. The HTTP package has a post method to send our request, and this post method takes few arguments, and one of them is that one that we need to initialize it now, which is called headers. So the headers that is a map. So let's initialize a map now. So static small s. So static map. It will have string keys and string contents. Name it headers. As I said, the first one will be authorization. And all of these are something related to the REST API, which is I will cover it all in my next course. And here it says bearer and access the secret. So we can call it just like we call the API base, or we can call it just by typing secret in here. I will call it like this. Alright, so the second one will be the content type, like this. And we need to give it something, application /x www form hyphen URL encoded, like this. Add a semicolon in here and the error is gone. Now we need to add a function to be called later on to initialize the Stripe payment. So in here I will initialize a function called init that will be called, as I said, later on in the init state to be initialized. And in here we need to call something called the Stripe payment. It didn't being recognized yet because I didn't import the package. Alright, so at the top, let's import it now. Let's import actually the HTTP package and import the Stripe package. So in here it says package HTTP, like this, / also HTTP .dart, and it says in here as HTTP because they usually type it like this because the HTTP package contain many methods that may other packages contain it, so that's why. So by calling it like this, later on we can use its methods by calling like http dot something, like just like we did in here. For example, we need to import now the Stripe payment package. So in here, let's say package Stripe underscore payment, then Stripe payment. I will just copy it and paste it in here like this and says dot. I'm still getting an error because it's not being installed correctly, so I will just save it again till it's being installed. Alright, so in here it's not being added, so I will just add it manually. So let's go to this website, copy it, and I will just paste it in here. Save your file now and it will be worked correctly. Alright, so let's go back to the payment. The error is gone from here. And now for the Stripe payment, it has many methods. So in here, we need to call something called set options, as I said, to initialize it, which is take the Stripe options, which is take two arguments. The first one, the publishable key, which is you get it from the website from here. So I will copy it, go back and paste it in here. Add a comma in here, and we need to add the merchant ID and the Android. In here, I will just type in a test, and in here, type in test because it's just a test. Later on, if you want to use it in a real application, for example, you just need to pass in the arguments for each one. Alright, so in order to send the user information, now we need to use the HTTP package. So for that, let's create another method which is will handle the payment, or actually which is will send the data for about the user to the Stripe account. So in here, let's say static future, which is contain string as keys and dynamic. I will name it create payment intent. We need to give it string amount, and we need to give it the currency. Let's go to the logs in here and go to this error, for example. As you can see in here, we send later on the amount and the currency. Alright, so do it like this. Alright, so I'm still getting an error in here because we need to initialize a map, as I said before, and I didn't initialize it as a map. So in here, let's add it like this, and we need to just close it. Just like this. Now in a try catch to handle the errors, in here let's add catch, like this. And in the try block, we need to add a map, which is a body. So as I said before, for the headers, the post method for the HTTP, it contains headers and body, and it has something else later on. I will talk about it. So in here, let's say string dynamic. I will name it body. You can name it anything that you want actually, but I will name it body to avoid confusion. Add a semicolon in here, and we need to pass in the amount and the currency. So I will just copy this from here, paste it in here, and for sure in here we need to pass in the amount and we need to pass in the currency. So in here paste the currency, and in here paste the amount like this. Alright, so now we need to use this package to send the data. So we need to use, as I said, the post package. So as you can see, it has many methods, and I will talk about them later on in my future course. And in here, let's say http package dot post. And if we hover on the post method, as you can see, it takes the URL, which is a URI actually, and it takes the headers, which is a map of strings, and it takes the body, and it is an object. So the first argument will be our payment API URL, but it is a string actually, so we need to convert it to a URI, and that can be done easily. So in here, I will copy this, paste it in here, change the string to a URI, change its name to URI at the end, and it will be equal to URI.parse the payment URL, like this. Now, if you use an older version of the HTTP method, make sure of the type of the URL that this post method take it, because in the previous versions it takes a string as a URL for it. So in here, the first argument, as I said, the payment URI in here, so the error is gone, as you can see. The second one is the headers. I will pass in the headers, and the third one is the body, and pass in the body like this. Now let's save this request and a response. So in here, let's say var response equal to, and if you check it, it is a future, so we need to await it. Add await keyword in here and async keyword in here, like this. Now in the future, it returns this type of argument. Now this method returns a future of a map of strings. So we need to return this response in our case. So in here, let's say return response, and still make an error. So this response, we need to do something for it. Let's see what this response contains. So as you can see, it contains many things, as the status code, for example, the requests, the headers, the body. Alright, so we need to do something for it. And actually, the response is some kind of JSON. So we need to decode it. We can call json.decode to it and call the response.body like this. Alright, so what this has done is it just decode the JSON. Alright, so in the catch block, let's add a print statement. So let's say in here, error occurred and the payment intent, like this, and let's print the error in here like this. We can call to the string for it, but it's fine. It will be worked like this. We don't need these curly braces. Alright, so at the end, let's return null. Alright, so we need to use this method later on. So now let's create another method to handle to allow the user to enter his information, and then we use this method to send his data to the server. Alright, so in here I will initialize a static method also. It will be a future of type this class, because it will handle the response, and I will name it pay with new card. Now in that website, they cover also if the user wanna buy from an old card. So you can manage, for example, to save the user card and later on just use this method to allow the user to pay using an old card. Alright, so it will take few parameters for sure, and it's going to be named parameters. So for sure it will be the amount and the currency. I will just copy it and paste it in here. And we need to initialize 3 variables. So the first one will be the payment method, which is a new card. So in here, let's say payment method and call the Stripe payment dot payment request with card form, this method. And it's actually a future, so we need to add await keyword in here, add async keyword in here like this. Now for the options, we need to pass in card for payment request, just like this. Alright, so the second one is the payment intent. And from its name, we need to use this method that we created in here. Alright, so in here, I want to name it payment intent, like this. It will be equal to Stripe payment, or actually this time Stripe payment and call our method to it. Like this, and we need to pass in the amount and the currency. So in this way, we create an intent to send the amount and the currency to the server. We still need to initialize the response, which can be done by calling the Stripe payment dot confirm payment intent, just like this. Now we need to pass in the intent. So in here, let's say payment intent, and we need to pass in the client secret. Alright, so for the client secret, we need to pass in the payment intent, so this response, and call to it the client underscore secret, like this, because it will handle the client secret. And we need to pass in second argument, which is the payment method ID. And as I explained before, this diagram covers everything. So that's why I explained before that we start coding. So in here, as I said, we need to pass in the payment ID, which can be getted from the payment method dot ID, like this. We need to add a semicolon in here, and the error is gone. Now we need to do a check for this response. Alright, so in here, let's say if we need to check now the response status. So as I said in here, 200 means okay, 400 means an error. So in here, let's access the response.status. It will be equal to succeeded, means the payment is succeeded. And now we return a response for this class. Alright, so in here, let's give it the message and success. If it is success, let's give it true in here, and we need to pass in the message, I mean, transaction, let's say in here, successful, like this. Now in the else block, for sure outside of the F, so in here, we return false in here and failed in here, just like this. Now, to handle errors, for sure, let's wrap it just by a try catch. So in here, add a catch in here, like this. And we need now to handle also platforms exceptions. So in here, let's say on platform exception, just like this. Say catch error like this, and we can now return this, or we can create a method to handle the errors. So in that link, they actually used a method to handle the errors. I will just copy it and paste it in here and explain it. Alright, so in the catch block now, let's return something just like this one. And also in here we can print the error. So in here let's call the error like this. Alright, so I have copied already this method that they handled the platform exceptions in it. I will just change the name of this class. I type it wrong first. And in here now we can use this method and the return statement in here. So let's say stripe service dot get platform error and pass in the error like this. Alright, so in this method we are actually initializing a message which says something went wrong. But if the error code is cancelled, so once the user actually opens the dialog, for example, wants to pay, for example, and then he cancel it, this transaction cancelled will be called because the error code will be cancelled. Alright, so what I mean is, for example, once the user opens this dialog to enter his information, then press, for example, back and cancel it, the status code will be cancelled. So we are just checking it if it's equal to cancel to set the message to transaction cancelled. Now we need to use this method or this class and the cart. So since we added few packages, let's run the application again and see what will happen. Alright, and in this time I will go to the screens and to the cart in here, and we need to transform it to a stateful widget. As I said before, we need to transform it to a stateful widget because we need to call this init in the end state later on. So in the cart, let's initialize the end state. So in here, let's say end state and say stripe service.init, just like this, to be initialized. Alright, so if everything is working fine, I will cut the process and run it again. Alright, so actually in the checkout section, which will handle the payment later on, so in this inkwell, and in here, I mean, we need to add a method to handle the payment. Alright, so before that, I continue explaining in here. I got an error. Alright, so once I cut the process and I continue again, and I run it again, I mean, I got an error. If we go up, up, and up, it is in here. It says actually the minimum SDK shouldn't be 16, it should be 19. It can be fixed easily. So close it, go to this build Gradle, and in here just change 16 to 19 like this. Now run the application again and see what will happen. Alright, so as I was explaining before, we need to add a method to be called later on once the user press on the checkout button. So in here we can initialize a new method, and it seems that everything is working fine now. Alright, great, so the error is gone. Alright, so in here, as I said, we need to initialize a new method. It will be a void actually, so let's say void pay with card, for example, or just name it checkout, as you like. I will keep it like this. And in here we need to just call the Stripe service dot pay with card, and we need to pass in two arguments, which is the amount and the currency. Alright, so for the currency, we can just pass in USD like this. This is mean dollars. And for the amount, I will pass in, for example, just 5 in here. And let's see what will happen. Let's call this method. We need to call it, as I said, in here. Restart the application. Let's add a product to the cart and try to check out. Alright, so it is working fine. It asks the user to enter his Visa card. Now, there is a Visa card that everyone can use it, which is 424242, and you can use any future date, for example, like this, and you can use any CVC number. Hit save and see what will happen. Alright, so we got nothing in here because I didn't print anything. Alright, so let's go to the logs in here and go up, refresh this page. Press on load more, and here it is on this time, and as you can see my time in here, it is almost the same. Alright, so it says that the amount is too small. The amount should be at least 0.5. Alright, so let's try something different. Let's try now to pass in like this, but a decimal number. Restart the app and add another item to the cart. So add this one and press checkout and see what will happen. Hit save. Let's go to this website and reload. The request still waiting. Reload again. Load more, so here it is. And as you can see, the time. Alright, so in here it says invalid integer. So as I said before, the amount cannot be an integer, it must be a decimal. Alright, so let's go back. Before that, I fix everything in here. Let's add a loading spinner, for example, before, and let's show the response on the screen. So in here, let's initialize a progress dialog, and this is actually can be used in the sign-in screen, but I will just keep it like this. So let's say progress dialog, let's name it dialog in here and initialize it, progress dialog like this. And we need the context. Alright. So in here, we need to initialize the style. And if you are wondering why we have the context in here, it's because we are in the stateful widget and we are in the state class in here, which is contain the context. So that's fine. In here, we say dialog.show, and we need first to create the dialog style for it. So in here, let's say style and give it a message. And say in here, please wait, for example, like this. And then dialog show, and we need to wait actually for them. So let's add await async like this. All right, so this is actually a future also, future of type boolean, and later on await dialog dot hide. So once the user presses on this icon, the dialog will be displayed. Once this method is being done, the dialog will be hidden. Alright, so to show the user the response, for example, or the response message, so in here let's add a scaffold. What I mean by scaffold, we need to show, for example, a snack bar. So to show a snack bar, we say scaffold dot of context dot show snack bar like this, and in here we pass in snack bar and give it the content, which is a text, and we can pass in the response message to it. So we need to get now the response. So in order to get it, for sure we need to get it from this method. Alright, so in here let's initialize a var response like this, and now we can call this response and says dot message just like this. Alright, now you can use duration to change the snack bar duration, and I will choose milliseconds. Oops, let's use milliseconds like this, and if response is succeeded, let's show it for that time, and if it's not like this, let's show it more. Alright, so I save it now. Let's try it. So as you can see the dialog, let's cancel it. So the transaction is cancelled. That's what I explained before. So let's see what will happen. For example, I will enter a wrong visa. As you can see, it has text validation. So let's enter it like this. Hit save and see what will happen. Alright, so here it is. The error is in here. Alright, so to see the response, well, let's print it. So in here, let's say print response like this. Add a semicolon in here, save it, try again. Hit save, and here is the response. Alright, so it says fed assertion and an error occurred in here. It's not clear actually. So, but if we go back to this website, I will reload this page and hit load more. You got this error clearly in here, which is says invalid integer. Alright, so we need to do few other things. So the first thing will be is to pass in the amount. For sure I got an error in here. So let's type it like this. And we need to pass in the amount. I will keep it named parameter like this. So in here, let's say the amount, and we can pass in the subtotal. Alright. So in this method, let's actually make something before that we pass it. So the first thing is that we convert it to an integer and we need to round it up. So for example, if it is 12.1, for example, we need to convert it to 13, something like this. Alright, so, but don't worry, if you may think that the user will pay more enough, you will see that it will be the same later on. So just don't worry. Alright, so in here, let's convert it to a named function. Alright, so above this line we need to add or initialize a variable to convert it from dollar to cents. So in here, let's say, let's initialize a double, let's name it amount in cents. For example, it will be equal to the subtotal times 1000, just like this. Alright, so I got an error in here because we need to delete just this arrow like this and change the semicolon to this. Alright, so we need to use now this one to convert the double to an integer. So in here, let's say integer amount, I will name it. Let's add an in here like this. It will be equal to something like you never seen it before, but it is easy just to convert it to, just to convert it from double to an integer. So let's say in here the amount actually in cents divided by 10, then call something called dot sale to it, just like this. Now we need to pass in this integer amount instead of the subtotal, like this. Of course, I got an error because this amount is a double. Let's change its type. So in here, let's use int, and in here let's use it now. And I will get an error because this is a string. So in here, let's just call to string to it like this. I will restart the application now and give it a try. Alright, so add something to the cart like this. Check out. Enter the test cardholder and hit save and see what will happen now. Alright, I got no error and the transaction is successful. I will reload this logs in here and see. Hit load more. I got an error, I guess. Reload. Alright. So it didn't appear yet. I will reload it again. Alright, so here it is. The time now is 2:37 a.m. and here it is. 2:37 a.m. I got 3 requests for it. Alright, let's check this one and it says, okay, so the payment is successfully done and here's the amount for it. Let's make sure of it. So the amount is in cents. Let's go to this emulator in here and here's the amount is the same. And go to this link in here. Alright, so now let's make sure of the amount. Let's search for Google, for example, cents to dollar. And here it is. You need to divide it by 100. Let's go back to the logs. If we divide it by 100, the amount will be 102.54. So let's go back to the simulator, which is equal to this one in here. Alright, so now let's try another amount, for example. Let's add something else to the cart. Let's add this one, for example, and hit checkout. Add a future date in here and enter the test number. Hit save and see what will happen. Alright, so the transaction is successful and the snack bar appeared in here. Let's reload this page, actually. Reload. And the amount, yeah, here it is. So this one. Let's make sure of the value. Alright, so here it is. If we divided it by 2, it will be equal to this amount in here. If we add also, for example, let's change the quantity. Let's make it like this. If we try to check out now, this is the last test will be try to check out and see what will happen. The transaction is successful. Alright, still reloaded again. Alright, so it didn't appear yet. The response that printed, it is successful. I don't know why it's taking so much time. Alright, so here it is. The amount is that much. If we divide it by 2, it will be equal to the amount in here. Alright, so everything is working fine. If you have any question, for sure, feel free to ask me anything. And I wanted to show you that in here, the request post body contains the request URL and the client secret and the payment method and everything. And in here, the response. So you will have access using this response to the ID, object, amount, cancelled. Alright, so that's it for this tutorial. And as I said, if you have any question, feel free to ask me and I will reply you in details and explain everything to you.